Genetically modified food. Today, those three words might conjure fears of scientists playing God with crazy frankenfoods, injecting weird bits of salmon DNA into tomatoes. Because ever since technology allowed scientists to play with genes, people have campaigned to stop them. It was 1973 when scientists first cut a gene for antibiotic resistance from one organism and pasted it onto another. A year later, the first GM animal, a mouse, was created. When a few scientists began tinkering with viruses, potentially creating superbugs, the science community put the brakes on and imposed a moratorium on gene technology until they could all agree on some boundaries. Which led people and governments everywhere to go, if even the scientists are worried, then we may have a problem, and the anti-GM movement was born. Heck, Neil Young wrote a whole protest album about it. And that public fear of GM food continues today.
Hell no, GMO!
A 2016 poll found that 84% of Australians are concerned about eating foods with GM ingredients. So perhaps it's not surprising that there are only two commercial GM crops allowed in Australia, cotton and canola. Although there are trials for other crops like sugarcane, banana, wheat and barley. Behind that public fear of GM foods was a coordinated global campaign by anti-GM groups. The most successful was in Britain, where activists stormed buildings, hacked fields of GM crops and lobbied supermarkets to refuse to sell them, effectively driving GM out of the country. Even Prince Charles got on board. One of the leaders of that movement was Mark Lynas, who spent most of his 20s and 30s doing everything in his power to stop the spread of GM crops. But in 2013, he completely changed his tune.
I want to apologise for having spent several years ripping up GM crops. I'm also sorry that I helped start the anti-GM movement back in the 90s, and that I thereby assisted in demonising an important technological option which can and should be used to benefit the environment.
That about turn has earned him some critics, including among scientists who say his new evangelising on the certainty of GM is
unscientific, illogical and absurd.
High school biology.
And has been refuted point by point.
So how did an activist go from being sure that GM was going to ruin the planet to now thinking that it might help save it?